Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing look at World Ablaze, Hearts for Hearts of Iron 4. I want to thank everyone for their support, including Toyjet and Nils and others over on Patreon. Thank you very much, as well as Toyjet was helping me out here just a moment ago before starting out this episode here. This rant is in particular based on Hoi 4. Now, I really love a lot of things developed for Hearts of Iron 4. I love railroads. I really, so far in playing, I'm not saying they haven't affected things. They have. But they're marginal at best, because with this detail of, this density of railway network supply and movement of troops and everything, I even think there's probably should be some more railroads going through some of those places. It doesn't really matter that much. Where I think it will matter out here. I hope it will matter out here. Now, I was just talking with Toyjet here, and just before starting this episode, I said to avoid these things, these areas, but I had already long since told it to avoid the North Sea and have blocked off the English Channel. Now, because I don't like this, because I'm losing ships to this, and I don't have a way to turn off supply here. This seems to be a problem here with Hoi 4, because I know how to do it in Hoi 3, because Hoi 3 as standard, it automatically does supply and resource convoys, but you can turn it to manual if you want to do that. I really like options like that, and I wish that I had that here. This really sucks. So another sort of problem with Hoi 4. Now, if we were to, well, I guess so long as I still haven't gotten Norway, I don't really want to put my ships out to Cherbourg to be used there. Okay. We're getting ready, hopefully soonish, to head towards Norway to visit Eric and Toyjet's home. Norway had decided to declare war against me. So they're forcing me to go north and deal with that. That's sort of a shell of guarding the ports. Got some divisions around as reactionary or reaction forces. Hopefully that, oh, this is a little dense to see where. The thing is here. Deciding not to come around through there. Japan demands French Indochina, and we've integrated Hungary better into our industrial capacity here. Now, if we also integrate Romania, Triol and Brandenburg will each get 2 military factories, and down in Legionary Romania will get a total of 4 military factories, and we get some resource rights. Okay, so let's do that. Now again, okay. Oh, actually, somehow we're sort of positive on resources there. Good. But we don't have nearly enough steel or rubber. I currently reject that I think it's wrong that I don't have enough steel. Because one, of course, is this stupid ahistorical Norway declaring war on me. But even if we don't take that into account, even if that's somehow sort of legitimate, let's just say, it was only during winter that the steel was only able to effectively be able to shipped out through Narvik. You could get in summertime, you can get to steel out of Sweden just fine. Oh, this is just silly. I hate having to try to solve problems like this. Yes, okay, so we'll get the factories going here. Not that we can use them. Because I feel like I'm solving a problem that shouldn't exist. It's how I'm feeling with all of this. Not that I'm like with the rubber. I'm feeling it's a very real historical problem that should exist. So that's sort of a different matter. Mines for production, none are being done because we don't have enough steel. Okay, well, changing tasking now that the Soviets have taken over up here.
Ausrücken! Achtung! Bereit zum Ausrücken! Befehle! Achtung! Bereit! Zuhören! Bereit!
Hello, Irish. How you doing today? What decision should I, can I do? Don't know why. Maybe this is what I need to do to get the SS, Waffen-SS. Okay, here, recruit. Yep, that's apparently what I needed to do. Active Waffen-SS. Campaign, alright, okay. Okay, so we have those. Done that before, probably. Have the ability to. Okay. The thing we're currently lacking is, well, it's the iron to make the steel and the rubber. So we are dealing with this now. In a meeting with Adolf Hitler today, members of high-ranking Wehrmacht officers over Oberkommando de Wehrmacht have voiced their concerns about what they term political favoritism on behalf of the SS. In particular, they are watching developments of parallel armed forces in that. With deep worry, lavishly equipped SS divisions, their augment continues, only take away desperately needed resources from the regular army. Finally, independent could lead to separate command structures leading inferior political as unbecoming German officers assure them due to final command of all SS forces. Okay. A little bit of talk here. First question is, why the hell do they have a picture of Ribbentrop here? I mean, come on, guys. Get a coherent picture that matches the event. You know. Okay. Well, there were concerns between particularly the army. I don't know whether it would be Oberkommando de Wehrmacht or whether it was the Oberkommando de Heers. Heers is army, Wehrmacht is armed forces, which includes the Navy and the Luftwaffe, which had two other parallel command structures, obviously. There was concern over the Waffen-SS on a couple of areas. A big concern was, hello, Doric. No, this is not multiplayer. I'm not doing multiplayer, doing single player right now. You can join us tomorrow for War Thunder. We play as a group then for sure. But you can check out that tomorrow, Sunday, about this time. We'll be playing, but not Hearts of Iron right now. Thanks. Don't know if Arno's around yet to put links up to the Discord. Probably not yet. All right. Back onto the topic of the Waffen-SS, which is different than the SS. Well, it's a subsection of the SS. Not different than, but it's a subsection. They were concerned about manpower. The army needs manpower. The army already is competing with the Navy and the Luftwaffe. The Kriegsmarine and the Luftwaffe, to use those cool terms. And they realize that, I mean, that's a serious concern. There's a less serious concern of, I don't know, jealousy of a competing armed force. It does exist, but I really don't think, no matter what may have been said, I really don't think the army, the Heers, at this point in 1940, really thinks the Waffen-SS with its, well, let's see, what is it, 3 divisions right now at well, let's see. Okay, so they have Das Reich at this point, or yeah, Das Reich I think is formed, or the Vergentruppen or whatever, Vergentruppen. may have been renamed Das Reich, Totenkopf, I think Polizei, which may not even be technically an SS division. So those are 3 divisions, plus Liebstandart, which was just a regiment officially at this point, probably a bit bigger than a regiment, but that is it. We're talking max sort of 4 divisions. So that's not a something that is going to compete heavily with the Army at this point. Now, later on, obviously the Waffen-SS gets bigger. But what happens at this point and leading up to this point, because this could have happened a little earlier. One, the Army was assured and given command of the Waffen-SS as a field formation, meaning how it was going to be operated in combat. It was given over to the Army. Now, also I want to say on manpower, because there was also, which is criminally, in my opinion, or I don't know if criminal would be the best, or and I've only been, because I can only find a few books on it, but what's the word I'm looking? Incompetently overlooked is the SA. It is a major force at this time period. It is huge. Now, unlike the Waffen-SS, the SA members are directly drafted, or they can volunteer into the Army. So that's often why it is overlooked, but it did provide units, direct combat units, for the invasion of Poland. These were units from the SA units that were set up and formed as Sudeten, in the Sudetenland. The Germans set up a sort of secret army that was trained inside of Germany, that was set up to sort of be a guerrilla type force in the Sudetenland, mostly as a provocation for the Czechs to do something. So they were trained and equipped, and they had much better unit training, and so and were equipped with Czech weapons. So a few Standarten were used in the Polish campaign as combat troops, and they were definitely used as rear area and occupation type forces as well. And they continue on it. So that's also a distinct manpower draw as well, but not as set up differently. So back to the Waffen-SS. The Army was assured and given for field commands, it was going to be under Army control. Now, the Waffen-SS was still going to control all of its own things internally, meaning who gets promoted, who gets to command, whether it's a battalion, a division, or whatever, that was going to be up to the Waffen-SS. The training was going to be up to the Waffen-SS for the large part. And so they were going to run themselves internally, and if there was any quote-unquote political actions that they needed to have done. How did we get? Oh, yeah. Any political? Any political actions that need to happen, those were going to be under Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich and whoever. But as a combat unit on the front line, they were going to be directly under the command of the Army. So you have the Army and I forget whether it was like Guderian or Monstein's book that I was reading years and years ago, but was given command of, I think it was Totenkopf division as part of the force, and they didn't even know what this formation was. I mean, yeah, they were told it was a division of armed SS people, but it was, what were these people? Not whether there were a division of guys standing around with rifles and stuff. I think they were even sort of surprised to find out that they were fully motorized. And such. So, they didn't know if they were going to be any good. Now, as the war goes on, obviously, yes, they learn a lot more about them. But so it was this sort of foreign element brought under their command. And the Waffen-SS was not starting out as some sort of super elite great combat unit. They had high casualties, particularly high casualties in officers. Some want to go, it's lead from the front, so the officer was going to front. Yeah, but it was also a lot of stupid mistakes. They were highly motivated, but only marginally trained and had, for the most part, very little combat experience. I say for the most part because you have like Hausa and others that were relatively high-ranking and majors, colonels, whatever, from the army that had, been in World War I and transferred over to the to the SS and later the Waffen-SS as it's being formed. So you do have some people in there that are based in the army. So, number one, they were given command, or the command of the units were given over to the army. And two, they were limited in the amount of German, so they could recruit German nationals. So that they would not be too big of a manpower draw from the army, so the Waffen-SS was primarily a volunteer force, and I could get into the weeds, and it's drawing maybe not necessarily voluntarily, but already members of the SS into it at points, and because of this, the Waffen-SS at various stages, and could almost to the point always have manpower problems, so they very early start doing foreign recruitment, including some of the earliest, I believe, some of it may literally predate the war, but some of the significant one was like when they were traveling through Hungary to get down to Greece. One or more of the Waffen-SS units recruited a bunch of ethnic Germans, like, oh, yeah, you want to join? Sure, come on, without asking Hungary permission to recruit nationals of their, because these were Germans with, born and lived in Hungarian territory, whether, maybe born under the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but were not German citizens. So that is why eventually, and so it starts out with being ethnic Germans in other countries, and particularly volunteers from such nations as like Norway and Sweden and Denmark, but then into quote unquote foreign legions as they come about to increase their manpower. So there's that. So we're going to go which way I presume this is becomes more angry, becomes slightly more angry and loses political power. So I think they may be overplaying the amount of dissatisfaction now. Okay. Here's here's what I have conflicts, and I've been having these with Hearts of Iron 3's current Black Ice developers, not with the original ones, but the current ones, is that they don't seem to want to magically give equipment to units like this. They want to give me this unit that's empty. Okay. Why is this wrong? Now this is why this is wrong. Yes, in reality, in the real world, all trucks and all rifles have to be made. You have to go make them, you know. They don't just magically appear out of the air. Now, should they magically appear out of the air in a game like this? I would say yes. And why would you magically appear things out of the air? Well, Totenkopf division. I know I was talking about here, but one of them, no, I think it was the Vergen troops that were fully motorized at the time. But Germany has lots and lots of weapons. And I don't think this game or this mod fully represents just how many weapons Germany has. And that they, you know, and particularly at the beginning of the war, before the war, excuse me, they're not fully utilizing the potential of production. So at this time, well, except for this unit here, these divisions and brigade here, regiment, whatever, were equipped outside of military lines. Particularly, I know Totenkopf really is properly motorized only after France. Now you could go and say, well, hey, you already have a mechanic in the game and you capture trucks. Okay. Now we do have a positive benefit of trucks. Can we see what they are? Between from foreign equipment. Okay, we can't. We can see foreign equipment. I know from production. Okay, yeah, and so we do have plenty of trucks now. But to my knowledge, the best of my knowledge, some of the trucks that Totenkopf gets are captured from French military sources, right? Some are captured because, hey, there's a truck over there parked there. We like that truck. We're going to take that truck. And it could be any sort of civilian truck. So when you create a mod like this, here's Totenkopf. So when you create a mod like this, you sort of go, okay, well, we know that they are equipped with scrounged up equipment, not conventionally, normally found on the battlefield. So it's outside the realm. We also know that a lot of the equipment that was made and used was not standard and were already in production. So I would give them the equipment. But that doesn't mean endlessly and in all occasions, but sort of at the start I would, because they were from outside the procurement system. Hello, MNDB, how you doing? Good to have you here. So I don't know. I would say that these should get magically equipped on their own, but that's just me. Okay, let's give them a Commander. Okay, there's crew. Okay. I saw Kruger. Hello, Dimitri. How you doing? Hope you're well in Russia. I hope things are well in Ukraine. I know it's a tough time for both peoples. And yes, I do fully support Ukraine in the war, but that doesn't mean Russian peoples are bad. It just means I support Ukraine. Yeah, well. Yeah, where's Hauser? Where's Hauser? Due east up to here.
Bereit zum Ausrücken. Achtung! Ausrücken! Bereit zum Ausrücken. Ihre Befehle? Bereit? Ausrücken! Bereit!
YouTube not banned. Well, there is something called a VPN out there. I believe, I don't have any way of confirming it, but it's been a few years, but had one guy who posted several times on some of my stuff. He was watching from Iran and really liked my videos. And I know YouTube is banned in Iran, but there's ways around it, and I know YouTube is also banned in China and mainland China, and one of the people who was watching my channel was a Chinese police officer who probably wasn't a very nice guy. Dimitri, I know, and I don't know how many. I don't know the percentage of people in Russia that support the invasion. And look, I know there's ethnic Russians in Ukraine, and I know there's issues. I still support Ukraine. That doesn't mean I don't understand the issues. But I got a friend who lives in Sochi, and I haven't heard from him since the invasion started. Not in the military, unless he's been drafted or something. But yeah, so I don't think he's in any sort of danger. Just cut off, and I haven't been hearing from him. And years ago, I knew he wasn't a fan of Putin. So yeah, I know that there are quite a few people like that aren't a fan of the war, and so that's why I didn't say anything. I just, because people hear it, even if they just hear me say, well, hope you're well in Russia. If you think, people might think that, yeah, you're some sort of Putin supporter. No, I'm not. And I don't think Russians necessarily, just because they are, And then, of course, there are also the Russians that get their information only from Russian state sources, and they believe, and so that, they believe what they're being told, so they support it. Just because that's what they hear and what they know. And I know that's a thing too. I do understand that as well. So yeah, I do get it. And so for all of you watching out there, and there, someone was talking about Subway, the sandwich maker chain. I know supposedly McDonald's has shut down their McDonald's, but still paying its employees. Someone was complaining that the Subways, which are really sort of a franchise, in that most of the shops are owned, either one person owns a single shop, or may owns 4 or 5 shops, and it's a subsidiary kind of situation, and they're not shutting them down. and somehow, well, we should boycott Subway out here. Well, there's subsidiaries out here, so it's the Subway owner and local sandwich shop owner in England has nothing to do with what's going on. You're only going to hurt them. And so we have to remember, and this is an important thing to remember here. The Opel Blitz, sort of, and it's used here iconically as the main German truck, and I think it was the most produced truck for Germany's military during World War II, was the Opel Blitz. Okay? Do you know, and I know I've mentioned this before, so if you're around, you probably do, but Opel was a wholly owned, meaning entirely owned, by a foreign company, not German owned. There was, to the best of my knowledge, no German ownership of Opel. Who was the owner of Opel? General Motors of the United States. Okay. Ford also had a couple of factories, major manufacturers. One in Cologne, however you want to pronounce it, right here, and maybe another one up in Berlin. And they made trucks too for the German army. Now, so was GM making money selling trucks to the German army while the German army was fighting America? No, it wasn't. It made money from Opel Blitz prior to the war starting, for sure, because every truck they sold, whether to the German army or to the civilian population, they got paid for. What happened once the war started? Well, maybe early in the war when they're fighting the British, they still got paid for their trucks. When I don't know all the nitty gritty details, but basically what happens is they go to war with America and Germany go to war, and nothing changes. They keep making trucks. Germany keeps paying Opel Blitz for the trucks because like I just learned, and I didn't realize this, the German submachine gun known as the MP-41, and I did know they made a bunch of them, but I didn't know that why they specifically stopped them, and why they stopped making is because they were made by Schmeitzer or Henkel, which Hugo Schmeitzer worked for, and it was sort of a combination of an MP-40 and a Schmeitzer design put together. And oh boy, I'm blanking on the maker of the MP-40, which was not Henkel. It was blanking on it, whatever, doesn't matter, sued the other company and got them to stop making it. So there was actually a productive submachine gun for the war, that there was a lawsuit internally in Germany. This I find ridiculous. So they stopped manufacturing these other submachine guns that Germany needed because of a fucking lawsuit. Now, what happens in the U.S. in similar cases is you had a patent on making a gun, a rifle, whatever. There, somebody else wants to make it. Fine, go ahead. You actually help them to set up production lines to make the copies from your company. Now, you did, and normally get a percentage of the sales. So you made a little bit off of the sales. They were selling it to the government, but like Singer sewing machines started making Colt 1911 pistols. Because they had manufacturing capabilities, they start making 1911 pistols, selling them to the government. I'm sure Colt gets a percentage of the profit, but that's it. Everybody gets to make them. But yeah, Henkel gets sued, so they shut down production of the MP-41, just as sort of an aside. So Germany is paying Opel, meaning GM, for all the trucks that they're doing. Well, Opel, the subsidiary company, has been put once the war sort of going on. Not nationalized as in Germany takes it over. Germany does take over some companies. Normally it's under that's under Gustav. Was sort of the company that really handled a lot of the nationalized companies, Gustav. And so various companies were like Simpson and Co. were put on. Name was changed once and then changed to Gustav, the German that was assassinated in Switzerland, and they named that cruise liner after him and other things. That's normally the main company that when they nationalize some other company, put it under government ownership, it normally goes into that consortium. Or it's a Hermann Goering Werk company. But no, they don't nationalize Opel, but they put it under government control, meaning they're ordered to make trucks, but they're still paid for all the trucks. They're still at a sort of profitable market, and of course the local company pays its workers, pays for its resources that it gets. It's steel, it's rubber, whatever, and the rest goes into a bank account, all saved up for after the war for GM to make all kinds of money off of those Reichsmarks that become worthless. So they get bank accounts with nothing in them, basically. Oh, billions of Reichsmarks that we could go have a bonfire with. Yay. And, oh, hey, the factories are, well, at least I know Ford factory is bombed. Significant damage, though I still think in production when the American, or still roll into Cologne. But yeah, I think they're bombed. So even if it's a working factory, they really don't really profit much out of it, if at all. So yeah, some of these companies that have subsidiaries in Russia, with the banking restrictions and the plummeting ruble, I don't think they're making much money out of doing business in Russia. It's just, and there's no reason. Yeah, Dimitri, there's no Liechtenstein, there's no Andorra, there's wherever San Marino is in Italy, there's no Monaco, right in here, I guess. Yeah. I think about the smallest is Luxembourg here, country. I don't know if there's, they don't even have Tangiers, which was a micro-state down here. And they did have Danzig as a micro-state in this mod. So yeah, all this boycotting, I understand the financial sanctions against Russia. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all this sort of boycotting of small companies and BS like that. We have, let's see, how many days? Okay, we got, what, about 32 days, 30 some days before we can invade Norway. King Carol II abdicates in Romania. Italy, yes, Italy gave us a bunch of forces. Should we go down to here? Okay, let's take a look at the naval map. Okay, it looks like we're doing okay here, so let's look at the supply situation. What does this mean here? Barely holding out, or not really holding out much into Tobruk. So what we're going to do is we're going to tip these guys down to Benghazi. We're going to risk, let me save it before we risk the too bad. Okay, and actually, we're going to keep the live stream going, don't worry guys, but we're going to end this episode, so all of you watching later on YouTube, Thanks so much for watching. If I hopefully I've earned your subscription or you hitting the like button as well. Really do appreciate it. See you next time for even more, yes, more Hearts of Iron.